The Warka vase is a large piece. Now, oftentimes in these first slides where you see me sitting there talking to you, drinking coffee, I will try and put the piece in some kind of size context to give you an idea of the actual size of the piece. Here you see it next to the Invisible Man, who's not terribly invisible, but embarrassingly shows up in all of the photos. And the Warka vase basically depicts a religious festival, specifically a fertility festival. And this is not human fertility, this is crop fertility. Again, we have that crossing over, just like we believe may have been the case with the Aphrodite, with the Venus of Willendorf. So same sort of idea. And it's made up of levels. Those levels are known as registers. And this is very common in vases, although we will see it in some sculpture and other pieces as well, especially among the Mesopotamians. And this is dividing everything into bands so that we can see different scenes of a story. It adds to the narrative. After all, art is, especially in the prehistoric world, all about communication. At the bottom band, we see crops above water. And these are what we would refer to as corn, although of course it's not actually corn. That comes from the New World. This would be wheat, barley, etc. The water depicting irrigation and the role of water in the fertility of the crops. Above that, we see a band of male and female ewes and rams, or basically sheep, in strict profile. The sheep, of course, eat the crops and produce meat for humans. So they would be a little bit above what we're seeing elsewhere, well, the crops. Next we see a procession of naked men who are carrying baskets and jars with all of these goods. And these are the offerings to God. So even 200 years ago, in many places, even 100 years ago, many people would have given the first part of their crop, whatever their crop is, to their gods. They would have offered it to their gods, and that's effectively what's happening here. They're taking the best part of their crop in a harvest festival and offering it, in this case, to Inanna, later Ishtar, the goddess of fertility. And this is the offering being made. We also see composite perspective. So what you get is the legs are in profile, but then the chest is turned towards us, whereas the face is again in profile. The focus on the eyes, again, the eyes as the root of perception in humanity. At the top of the vase, we see a female figure. This is Inanna, noted by her tall horned headdress and the two large poles behind her, which is her name in petroglyph. So this is her name written out in petroglyph form, so we know who it is. And this is going to be quite important. Now there is a clothed man represented, offering with the offerings for her. So we have someone who's nude with the basket offering, and then we have this clothed man with a rope around him. The clothed man is almost certainly a religious leader, a priest king of some form. He's wearing the rope because if Inanna finds that the offering or he is not worthy, she will strike him down. And so the rope is necessary because if he is struck down, they need to pull the body out. Otherwise it would render the temple dirty, effectively. It would be sacrilegious to leave the body in there. And when we look at Inanna, we see that she is quite large. In fact, she's larger than anyone else on the vase. And that is known as hierarchy of scale. So this is the idea that someone who is more important will be depicted larger than all the other figures. This helps us determine who these figures are oftentimes, and is an idea that we will see all the way through the medieval. So it comes up on a regular basis. It disappears for periods of time, but for the most part, it holds true all the way to the Renaissance, when they use different symbolism to get across the idea of hierarchy rather than scale and size. So what we have is offerings, crop offerings, harvest offerings to a god, Inanna, a goddess of fertility. And this would be the equivalent of modern day Thanksgiving. where we're making those offerings and giving thanks for the good things that we've had for the year. So the ideas that we have around Thanksgiving are not new. They are not novel. They go back 5,000 years to the oldest harvest festivals that have ever existed.